Ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned into the famous Dwayne's podcast. I am your host, Dwayne. With me are two of some of my favorite people, Miss Ajaya Divine
Peace.
and Miss Hope.
Hey, what's up?
So, and I got my fiance over here doing my hair because it's my birthday tomorrow and all of that. Got a bottle of Henny around here. I mean, I drink it, but that's not the point. So anyway, today we are talking about homeschooling and the importance of it, and how we can implement these things, because the school system has been fucked for the longest. The fact that people are justifying having wet ass pussy as some sort of empowerment, whatever, just shows you that school has to go. But moving forward amicably, what are your current opinions on public school system? Like, what was, I guess, your history with public schooling, or did you do private school? Like, how did school work for you, and how did it fail you, or not fail you?
I went to public school growing up all of my years, but what I noticed early on is how there's a lot of academic segregation in schools. So first of all, schools literally track students, like they track them from elementary school all the way up to they graduate. All the testing that you do, the standardized testing, quote unquote, which was, created for, most standardized testing were created for the upper wealthy middle class, white folks who could understand the language and all that, down to the SAT, down to whatever different states have. They have the CRCT, ITBS, all of that is basically tracking technology. And I was in the gifted program growing up in school, but I noticed how they would kind of, how people have what's the word we can say? Acceptable blacks or whatnot that they were looking for. So they only let, yes, they only would, kind of let certain people in, or they'd kind of fight to get you in the gifted program. Because I had a teacher that had to fight for me to get in first grade, because they simply didn't want to test me. Straight up, that's what it was. But that I definitely, and then my major, I am certified in early childhood and special education. So even through my experience going through the major as well, I definitely understand the inner workings of the school system. And unfortunately, it's just one big tracking program. Yeah.
And on my end, I was also gifted, talented, academic talent, some way, shape, in public school, all the way up until 8th grade. And then I went to a private school for high school. But the same thing, well, because I was kind of in the hood for my first 6 years, it was pretty mixed. It wasn't just the acceptable, you couldn't get in crazy trouble, but we had a lot of we were still mostly black classes, because that's really all that really went to the school. With the gifted classes had most of the white people in them. It'd be almost one or two in the regular class, and maybe a third of the gifted class was where all the rest of the white children are, and then the rest then the exceptional black children. So I didn't get that part until I got to 7th and 8th grade, where you start getting algebra. You get algebra in 7th grade, or you get moved into these different classes. Then I really noticed oh, okay, hold on, where'd everybody go? Okay, there's not a lot of black guys in these classes. There's, it just wasn't. I was okay. So then it went from that experience in elementary school to middle school, it being one other, maybe two. And I was ooh, this is different. Then I went to a Jesuit private high school, and it was oh, you're here because of sports. Like that was just the understanding. Now I did get in because of basketball. Don't get it twisted. Like I was definitely on the waiting list. And then when somebody dropped out, they was like, hey, you probably want to move her up because you want her to go here. So like I got in because I played basketball. But the first time we got our report or we got our honors convocation, they call your name. If you got high honors, they call my name and I stand up and it was like, oh, literally someone turned around and said to me, oh, I didn't know you were smart. Bitch, fuck you.
Right.
Like, excuse me? But I still, even being an exceptional student, I still didn't get much from school. Like I still graduated, like what the fuck do I do with my life? Like who the fuck am I? I got all of these A's and B's and AP classes and shit, but I still don't know shit about me and like who I am and all that stuff. But I can memorize anything and you teach me something, I can spit it right back to you. Like, what the fuck does that do?
Yeah. It definitely started to make you kind of resent schooling because, like you said, you didn't really learn anything from yourself. And our gifted programs are set up differently. They don't do it like this anymore. But in elementary school, we would have like a whole day out of the week where we went to a different school, like all the schools in the county. And it was like one teacher who was teaching us enrichment activities. It was a lot better then. And then like in middle school, they just kind of changed it. And today they don't do it like that at all anymore.
Oh, there is no
at all. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It's not even really different than what the other students do other than certain honors and rewards they get. I don't get it.
They make them do more work.
Yeah,
like, you have to write reports because you're honored. The other people just do multiple choice. Like it's like literally the difference. Like,
so it's almost as if you're being punished for being smart.
Man,
basically,
that's how it felt.
Yes, it's like, oh, we can put more programming into you because you're smart, so you can take on more programming, and then you can argue for the programming better. Like that's why I talk about like. All the highly intelligent and all the people with all the degrees are like fighting the hardest to keep the system in place. Like,
because they have no identity without it. Yeah,
exactly. Because that's who told them they were exceptional. So they need the system to stay in place. But I will say at my private school, besides the lack of brown and color in the school, we actually had like some decent enrichment through our religion because it was a Catholic based school. But our religion classes, we did a lot of enrichment through that because we learned like world religion, and then we did like moralism, and then we did relationships, and then we did I forget the last one, but then we had to do community service, and we did a lot of like. We took like the Myers-Briggs indicator, like, so you learn your personality type. We did like all of that stuff in that class. So like, that was pretty cool. I will give them like, our religion classes were great. Like our religion classes were good. I thought I was going to be in there fucking reading the Bible, honestly, when they said you got to go to religion class, and then it was nothing like that. So I did get that bit of enrichment in my private school setting, but you still don't learn shit about yourself at the end of the day.
Right. I started off in private school. I guess it was like kindergarten at my grandma's church. They had like a little school or whatever. And then that's when I got to my first fight, and I don't remember going back to that school after that. Then I was in public school pretty much till I graduated high school. I did do like little enrichment stuff like after school. Like I used to be able to draw. Can't draw for shit now. But I used to be able to draw. I did poetry, so I was in like little things like that where it would have oh, look at this guy, he can speak well and use words and shit, that kind of thing. And I was in some advanced English classes. I remember one time, one of them, because my thing was I just didn't do homework. I thought homework was some fuck shit, because it is. My honors teacher was like trying to dissuade, they're trying to talk to my parents about, oh yeah, I'm not sure if this is right for him. And what people don't realize, or what I think what a lot of teachers didn't realize until like it actually happened was that my father was always present. So like, I guess they were assuming I was just, somebody from like a broken home or something like that. My father was like, no, my son's not with that. You're not, no. He's going to do the work. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think once, he shows that he's like invested in all of that, that's when, I guess the teachers, tried to meet me halfway. It wasn't just like a regular, like, oh, we're just going to pressure him out of this thing or whatever, because, I need to make sure that, I have a certain amount of people pass this honors class to make me look good and blah, blah, blah. It was, all right, his parents is active. Let me see, what we can do here. So, but yeah, I mean, I really didn't learn much. I learned a bunch of words. I'm more verbose than most people that I know.
Okay, verbose.
I could be a loquacious ass nigga from time to time. But, as far as, knowledge of self, how the world works and all that other shit, nah. I mean, I had an economics class and I actually had a cool ass teacher. And I knew he was cool after the fact, after I graduated. When I saw him in the hood. And I was like, yo, what are you doing here? He's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh shit. Hi, white boy. See you?
Right.
But, it's just they teach you how to be a parrot. That's really what it boils down to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the purpose is to train you to go and work for the system and whatever they slot you for. So it's like, just because you get put in these like academic advanced classes, you're just slotted for a higher position. You know what I mean? Or for possibly make more fiat. Like it's not, you're not getting anything more value from the education. You're just being slotted and tracked on this particular track that should lead you into a more successful career. Like, but it's not any better. Like it's not. Like I went to college, I changed majors like 3 times. Like just like developed some, I drank a whole lot, like just in the off season. Had to make up for the whole basketball season. But just like it, I still, like, when I graduated, I was just like, what the fuck is life? Like, and if you have people for 12 years and all we can do is get you to pass the SAT and get you into college, you fucking wasted 12 years of my life. Like, that's how I feel about it now. Like, that's all. Like, I did all my education after college when I came into consciousness or, woke, whatever you want to call it. But then, like, that's when I read stuff that I was interested in, stuff that reflected me, stuff about the real history, like the real shit. That's when I did all of my true education that helped me figure out who I was. So it's like, why would you send your child to be programmed in a system that you have said yourself is racist?
Right.
I don't
doesn't make sense.
Make it make sense.
And then with economics in high school, I don't know about y'all school districts, but we only got 1 semester of economics. So it was like, we're supposed to, understand all the workings of how money works, writing checks work and all of that after 1 semester of classes. And as far as like the model, it completely matches the work model. I mean, you're in school for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. You barely get to finish your weekend. Sometimes you have to take homework home with you, just like parents have to take work home with them sometimes. And I mean, it sucks. My freshman and sophomore year of college, I had really good, because, those are your general ed classes. So I had good professors who kind of let me, pick my own topics. When I got my major, education major is is literally like hazing. Like it wasn't fun. It gave me such bad anxiety. My mom and I almost like sued the College of Education. It was ridiculous, but it's not fun, and it doesn't get you any closer to knowing yourself at all.
Well, I think that goes into people needing to identify the goal of education, or at least what's your goal for the education for your child. Like,
exactly.
Is it just to get a good job? Okay, well then I guess school might be a great place for them. You know what I mean? Like, if it's about full self-development, then no, school is not is not a good place. Like I did a homeschool seminar about 2 or 3 weeks ago on Zoom. And that's what we talked about. Like you need to define the goals for your children to know what kind of education you need to create at home. You know, I was like, I'm trying to create lifelong learners, people who are secure in themselves and find out what their skills and passions are. Like those are my goals. I can't say those are going to be your goals, but those are my goals. And then like, once you know your goals, then you know what kind of homeschool environment and what kind of things you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most definitely. I had a family reunion, however many years ago that was, and I met a cousin that she homeschooled both of her daughter and her son, and they was like 8 and 9 maybe or something like that, but they was like already at the high school level as far as like, you know, and they were very. I know a lot of people like there's that stigma, like, oh, you know, people that are homeschooled,
they're weird.
I'm like, y'all got kids over here playing house and shit in kindergarten, and you want to talk to me about weird?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm talking house.
And
house.
House. But it's so weird because like I had a teammate in high school that high school was the first time she went to school. So she went from homeschool to this private Jesuit school. And she was definitely like kind of an outcast, and not that necessarily that she was like really socially awkward, because I had played basketball with her for at least 5 years before we had got to high school, like in different leagues around the city. So she's been around people. She has, you know, developed social skills and being able, you can get social skills besides at school. Like there are other places where you're social and deal with people besides school. But she just didn't have she didn't care about the things that everyone else cared about. Like she just wasn't into like the peer pressure, the groups. Like she just was like, whatever, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and that's what, you know, whatever. And I had talked to her like a couple years ago. Her mom passed, and I went to the wake, and I was asking her about homeschool, and she was like, man, I would, and she was like, even though it was rough in high school because I didn't really like fit in, and it was kind of like whatever, but she was like, I already had such a strong sense of self that it didn't matter. She was like, it wasn't like the most fun thing ever, but I also wasn't going to like change who I was and how I related to people to try to fit in, because I'm just at school for these couple hours. Like I got the rest of my life. And I was like, people who are homeschooled have such a different view of life and school when if they ever do go to school. Like they're like, oh, like school's not life. For children who grow up in school, they're, you know, from kindergarten or preschool on, school is life.
Yep.
Like, so fitting in becomes life. Peer pressure becomes like, all of that becomes life, where children who are homeschooled for, you know, at 12 years or so, like school's not life. Like this is like a drop in the bucket compared to the whole world that's going on. And they already know that. Whereas regular people in school, it's like, what you gonna wear to school? What you gonna do? You know, like everything is based around this peer group and this pressure and what's cool and what's being seen as cool and how you can fit in and all that stuff. And that just makes people fucking consumer sheep. Like,
yeah, it's really weird.
It makes them crazy as well. And you can tell because you have people who will leave the high school model and then go to college and then flip out because they don't have a clique to gather with automatically. I saw so many people kind of wither away and self-destruct because they didn't have a clique when they got to college, or they weren't going to school with, you know, their group of people they were friends with, or people who still want to hold middle and high school views of you, or I don't know, whatever, and come and choose the same.
That join all the sororities and fraternities so they can be like, I'm not trying to down it, but you know, like to get back into the in crowd. Like you see people trying to get back into the popularity like contest, and like so that I can be known and I can be whatever, people can know who I am. Because I remember the boys basketball team, it was one guy, he would always speak to like the most awkward girl, like the one that nobody spoke to, like the one he would always go out of his way to like compliment him or just say something or hold the door for him, like, oh, hey, beautiful, come on through here. And And I, one day I was like, I thought he was just being like funny and like rude, kind of like I didn't think it was genuine. And so I asked him about it, and he was like, "Nah, man, did you see the smile on her face?" He was like that just made her fucking day. Like just me noticing her. It's, you know what I mean? Like, and just speaking and saying something when she's like constantly being ignored. You know what I mean? Like he would do it all people like in wheelchairs. Like he used to be like, that's what he liked to do. And I was like, hey man, that's pretty decent. Like, you all right with me. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, I'll probably never see her again. You know, like we on camp, like I'll probably never see her again. And she probably would never speak to me if she saw me or whatever. But he was just like going out of his way to make people feel like more welcome and more in, you know, just like in the in crowd, just because he was on basketball, people knew who he was. So he's like, you know, whatever, use that to my advantage. But then I see people that go and pledge, and y'all letting people fucking haze you and do all this ridiculous shit to you because you want to like you want to wear a jacket to a party because you want to be in like the stroll line. Like you let these football dudes run a train on you because you wanted to pledge what? And those your sisters? What are we, you know what I mean? Like what are
what's really the reason?
Yeah, like what are we talking about here? Like, whoo. But that's what school is. I mean, that's what happens in schools. Like, I've seen children get involved in sexual activity because they want to be in that group where everybody has become sexual. So they want to like be in that group and be in those conversations. So that's what they do too. You know what I mean? Like, ugh.
Yeah, I was just about to say school actually kind of breeds, I don't know, it has that atmosphere where it brings forth sexual exploitation. And I remember girls in high school having college boyfriends. I don't mean like they were almost 18. I mean 14-year-olds. And we're like, oh yeah, my man is like 22 and he's coming to pick me up after school. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did you meet a 22-year-old man? Let's back it up here, because y'all are almost 10 years apart in age. Like,
man, there's chicks in my grade dating nigga that was 30.
Oh.
Matter of fact, there's one chick, I didn't realize how young she was initially. And, you know, I grew up in the era that after R. Kelly, niggas started asking for IDs. Because I never really thought that like a young girl would really try to, you know, force herself to be with an older nigga. It just, I didn't have sisters. That didn't register to me. It just didn't. I guess I was just naive. But yeah, this one chick, she was like, I was in 12th grade, and I think she ended up being on like 8th grade or some shit. I was like, whoa. She goes, no, don't feel bad. Like, I mean, like, this other guy was fucking, he's like 30. I'm like, no, that's crazy. What? I need to know. Like, telling your mom. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just wild how it is a breeding ground for all of that. You know, especially with, you know, television programming. And we've talked about this before, like, you know, we talk about, you know, pedophilia and stuff like that, and how, you know, they'll have those episodes with teenagers talking about sex and the pressure and all this other stuff. And that's still a real thing, but I feel like with that added emphasis, it makes sure that the conversation doesn't go away.
It normalizes it. Even if you're having a conversation about how you're feeling the pressure and it's maybe not even necessarily good, it normalizes that conversation and that pressure. So like the person, if somebody's watching it, be like, yep, I'm gonna pressure somebody into doing that. Everybody's not paying attention to the conversation. You got all the other characters that are playing a role in it, and that some child is identifying with these other characters, not the one that's having the conversation about it. That's what people like. That's where they slip it in on you. It's like, oh, well, it was a very powerful conversation about this, and that. I was like, no, but somebody identified with the dude that was trying to pressure her to have sex, and he wasn't worried about the conversation that came after.
Exactly.
You know, I was like, so that's where that programming comes in. And then you're putting all of these, especially middle school, beginning of high school, all these hormonal children.
Oh yeah, in one building.
In one building, and like, just like, yeah, don't do, like, in expecting them not to act on what's going on, where in like more homeschool settings and community school settings, like it's a flow of there's different ages. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's not everybody who's at the same developmental phase, the same physical development, all at the same time, going through all the same changes and pulling each other all in the same direction. You know, I was like, it's supposed to be a mixed setting so that the younger ones can model for, or the older ones can model for the younger ones. You have people who have already been through puberty and all, you know what I mean? Or on the other side of like puberty to be like, yeah, you don't want to get into that. I know, you know what I mean? Like to have all of that balance, but when you put all of them that are going through the same thing, nobody don't know shit and they all give each other badass advice. Like, but then people like, you want to, they have to be social. They need to be socialized. What the fuck are you socializing them into though? I don't want to socialize my child into over sexualized and trying to fit in, like
Blindly in the Blind and all of these shows, and people love to say, oh, we shouldn't let TV raise your kids. You're not wrong about that. They're not wrong about that. However, let's not pretend like most parents don't have the means, and I don't mean means like money, but they're not home enough to raise their kids. They're working all day. It's like work 8 to 5. All right, feed them dinner, 2 hours of television, bedtime. They don't have, just because of the way that the system is set up. So let's not, while there's a way that it can be done, let's not act like most parents don't have the means. So when I hear people like on Twitter, whatever, say, well, you shouldn't let Cardi B raise your kids anyway. Come on, y'all. Y'all know these parents aren't monitoring their children. Y'all know this. So when we have that show,
a lot of these hoes that saying that kind of stuff ain't got no kids because they got them yanked. And
yanked?
Anyway,
I thought of 2 different scenarios for that to fit.
Same.
But I'm just saying though, like they I feel like a lot of times they're not talking from experience. They don't have kids, they don't have anything to live for, or they don't have, because a lot of times people just like to justify whole shit, and it's like, just say you want to be a hoe. Don't try to justify it. Just say that's who you are.
Right.
And don't take away my Cardi B, because your child keep finding them on YouTube. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if your child found them on YouTube, that's too bad. But I'm going to, like...
Say it with your tits.
Hey, I grew up... there was 2 other girls at my school, in my high school, that... Okay, internet and home computers were kind of like my 8th grade, freshman, sophomore year. That about a sophomore year, everybody pretty much had, like, internet computers at home, at least at that school. They didn't have no media. They didn't watch TV. There wasn't no internet. None of that shit at their house. And they would be like in school, like just
what are
looking like, what was on that TV show? You know what I mean? Like they did that on like they're like, what? No wonder our parents don't let us watch TV. Like they were like,
yeah.
And they were like, oh no. So yeah, it almost has to be that extreme. To where, like, if you're really gonna be like, I'm trying to protect my children, turn the shit off. Like, literally, don't have cable. Just it saves some money on top of that, but don't have cable. Okay, all right. Now it's just limited to YouTube. You know what I mean? Hey, you don't gotta get them a device.
That too.
Like, you don't have to get your child a device. Like, you don't. And you can say you gonna get it for an hour here while we're sitting down together. Like, you can make these boundaries, and that people are acting, people want to, like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't sit down and watch the shit and then have your child there like they're not going to absorb it. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I think that's who does a lot of complaining too, because it's like you want to consume it, but at the same time you want to shame it for
your
being,
child from it.
Yes, like you want to be able to consume it, but you're like at the same time you want to shame that it's out there. Like, you was just watching this shit. Now you're talking about, that's inappropriate for children, but make it make sense. Like,
the same way that everybody, your parents will get mad at you for looking at porn on the computer that they gave you when they got, booty talk number 69 brown paper in the room. And that's your first experience with porn.
Man.
So it's like, look, you know, are we gonna be real about this? Are we gonna be hypocrites? You know what I'm saying? Like,
hypocrites. It's a world of hypocrites. Like,
yeah, man.
Because I remember I found one of my mom's boyfriend's stash when I was in high school though, so like, but I had never actually seen porn. Like, I wasn't a virgin anymore, but I had never seen porn. I was, oh shit, what is this shit? Put this in. Oh, I don't do that.
Why not going in that hole? That don't make sense.
This is extreme.
Who's recording?
Like, that's how I used to watch porn. Like, oh, does that feel good? Like, I had questions.
Yes, I remember talking about that.
Yeah. So,
but that stuff is scarring. I mean, I laugh about it now, but honestly, like, clearly it was traumatizing because I seen the whole scene in my head and like jumped back. Like that, like that shit is not normal for children to see. Like,
yeah,
it's just not.
And I remember back in the day, because I was an avid consumer of that content at a point, and I remember back in the day, they would always say like it would be a very safe kind of background. It was like, you know, if you're not 18, you know, you can't go over here, whatever. Now they don't give a shit.
Man, child safety locks, who? Things don't even exist no more.
Damn, they don't. They
I seen a thing that said that, like, something about Pornhub having like over how many ever.
I saw that.
Like,
I have it saved. I think it's like 168,000. It's less than 1%, quote unquote, which is how they sweep it under the rug. But it's still like hundreds of thousands of videos of children. So it gets swept under the rug. Because I actually have a thing saved about it, and it's like, oh, well, you know, the virus is killing, you know, less than 1% of people, and people are in a frenzy. But Pornhub got, you know, less than 1% or 1% actually of child, you know, porn videos. But it's cool because we need our porn. You know, so.
But again, people want to say that watching porn does not contribute to sex trafficking or any type of pedophilia. Stop the madness. Stop it.
I think what it really boils down to, and just society, is that people want to have their cake and eat it too.
Yep.
They want to be able to. They want to try to dismiss the fact that, oh, you know, rap shouldn't raise your children. Like, this shouldn't be. You know, it doesn't influence whatever. But how the fuck do these kids know how to dress? Where do they want to get their style from? Why was niggas wearing baggy jeans in the first place? Because of rap.
Exactly.
Cut the shit.
Like, I just wish people would stop bullshit. I just wish people would stop bullshitting with it. Like, just be real. This stuff has an influence. I'm not going to say it's okay, but you need to admit it. Like, people aren't real with themselves. They don't want to admit that they want to be able to consume these things. People don't want to admit they don't care about children. That's what it really is.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Don't want. We got fuck them kids model that's been going on for the past couple years. We got all these women who somehow who view having a child as an endangerment to their lives. And people just don't want to admit that they don't like children. They don't care about children, and it's sad. But that's really what it boils down to.
And that's literally what it boils down to, because it's like, how do you, if you really know and you're cognizant of what goes on in schools, what the school system is, how it's racist, how it was created by racists, all of these things, but yet you continue to send your child there. And you're not even trying to figure out how to not do that. You know what I mean? Even though e-learning got everybody figuring it out right now, but like, you're not even trying to figure out how to make that not an option, but you care about your children. You know what I mean? Like,
it doesn't add up.
In theory, yes. In practice, no. But again, you can't care about your children if you don't care about yourself. So then everything goes back to self. So
as always, yeah.
So as far as, the actual homeschooling process, what are some examples of how it works? I've talked before about, like I had an ideal situation where like, I'm in a town with a bunch of like-minded people, and maybe we have like a rotation of like, different people that like, okay, you'll teach class this day, and then somebody else will teach class another day, something like that. Like how does, for someone that's actually doing it, because this is just me, just like, going off my Negro brain. So like, someone that's actually doing it, like what kind of examples work for you? Have you seen that work?
Well, it depends. Again, like I said, you have to define your goals. Because I personally use more of what has been called the unschooling method, where there is no curriculum. There is no, like, we do this from this time to this time. There's no schedule. It's basically child-led. Like today, Rami picked up, I have this human anatomy book that's mostly pictures, but it has words and stuff in it that I was like, oh, I need to go read this my damn self to figure out what everything does and what all this is. But he just picked it out the thing, and he came and he sat down on the yoga mat with me, and he was like, Mom, and we just literally went through the whole anatomy book. This is your skeleton. These are your nerves. Like, and he was into it. I was like, look, those what your muscles look like under your skin. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, like you take your skin off. I'm dramatic. So I'm like, if you take your skin off, that's what's under there. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah. And then like, so we just go through all that. I was like, right there, your ribs, those ribs right there. And then I would touch his. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and we literally went through all the body systems, what's connected to what. Like, he started identifying them himself. He's like, oh, those are muscles. Mm-hmm. Oh, those are nerves. Like, we just did probably more than I learned in health class because he came to me and was like, Mama, let's look at this book. You know what I mean? Like, and then I put some dramatics on it to make it seem like, this was like some crazy shit. Like, dude, you see this? Nah, when you eat, it go down here into your stomach, right there. Like, and then I would touch it on him, like right there. And he was like, oh man. So like, that's what it looks like for us. And like, I just, some children that in the martial arts class, he went over there while I went to training because I'm actually helping with the e-learning in a school system. Mm-hmm. Or in a school that's going back to school. And so I took them over there, and they have a garden. They have, like, she planted, I don't know how many, it's probably at least 12 beds of food. Like, so we're going to be doing lessons about, like, stuff growing, like identifying the parts of the plant, like what this looks like, seed, whatever, how it grows, sun, water, like, bam, that's a lesson. And it doesn't need to be like, open a book, sit down. Like, I don't want to create school at home. But then there's some people who do go into like getting a curriculum and like, okay, we do math, we do reading, we do science, and they do it that way. And, that works for them. Like, I don't really try to get into like, don't do that. But like, I don't want to fucking do school at home. Like, I want to actually be able to figure out what my son's talents are and what his passions are. And those naturally come out. Plus, especially with young males, especially the brown ones, they do better when they can lead themselves in learning. Like, the more you try to force them to be like, you're gonna read this right now, you're like, no, I'm not. And you end up arguing and trying to fight to get this done, where if you just let them go, like, eventually you gonna come. Like, the one lady was just like, man, my son, she's like, I ain't taught him nothing. I feel bad. She's like, I've really not worked with him at all. She's like, my oldest one, I worked with him and I actually taught him how to read and sat down, we would do this. He was like, my second one, she was like, I ain't did nothing with him really. Like, I taught him how to write his name, you know what I mean? Like, little stuff like that. But she's like, I didn't really work with him. She was like, he just came up to me the other day. He was just writing his numbers. Like, she was like, I never showed him. Like, he just started writing numbers. He was like, do, 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 do. Then he kept up and started asking, what letter is this? Like, so now that's them doing it, so you don't have to force it. But if you have to be patient, because everybody's like, you think that you need to start learning letters at 3, or you need to start trying to teach them this at whatever age. It's like, no, if it's literally in the world around them, they're eventually going to ask about it, because learning is a survival skill. Like, what is that? What is that up there for? Like, they eventually gonna ask about it if it's in their environment. So, like, surround them with the right stuff and let them bring it to you. And then it goes easy, like super easy.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest issues with standards for learning as well, because the standards, like I said, standardized tests and all of that, first of all of that is really new. Like, that stuff is 1900s, 1920s, including mandated vaccination in the school. That stuff is like 1900 to 1920s, maybe 30s. So it's not even like a way they used to do things. It's super recent. But I'm definitely, all for meeting a child at their developmental age. Now, currently, I don't have a homeschool system set up. What I do is private tutoring. So I'll go to, both of the two students I have right now, they're in a school system. So I will, help them with their homework and just kind of foster and enrich where they're at now. But I meet them where I'm at. I'm not trying to force them. I'm trying to find what methods work best for them, because they have different learning styles. Both of my students are students with special needs, but they have the same quote, identified disability, but they're very different in the approaches I have to take with them. And I just think about growing up, how, I did go to preschool, but my mom didn't solely rely on school to teach me. Like, she was reading with me at a young age. That's why when I got to preschool and I was, when I was 3, I could read, I could write, I could identify my letters and things like that. So even if you are going to send your children to public school, you should not rely on the school to do all of the educating for you. And my mom, if I got something wrong on a math test, guess what? I was rewriting the problems I got wrong. And I was like, Mom, they're not making me do this. Well, you need to know what you got wrong and why, and, all of that. And I appreciated that. I didn't, at the time, of course, I got a little attitude because I wanted to do the work, but I'm grateful for it because it taught me problem solving. I didn't make the same mistakes again. I mean, simple as that, because she went through them with me. She had me explain why. When we would be reading higher level stories and I had a word that I didn't know, she wouldn't let me grab a dictionary. She would tell me use context clues to figure it out. And after I got as close to the word as possible, then she'd say, check yourself in a dictionary. And, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Just tell me what the word means. But now I can read a book and figure out pretty much any word I don't know, just based on root words and context clues. And now some schools are adapting teaching Greek and Latin roots so that, kids can know, bi means two. So bicycle, bipedal, all of that. But they weren't doing that growing up. And even some teachers aren't what's the word? Consistent with it anyways. But those types of things are not going to get taught in the school, unfortunately. Like, you have one teacher to anywhere between 20 to 32 kids. Like, you got to do some work. You got to do some work at home, regardless. There should be homeschooling even within the, quote, public school system model.
Yeah, I think that pretty much everything that you do, whether you know it or not, if you have a kid in your house, you're doing homeschooling to some degree. Whether it's an actual formal lesson or they're learning from you and how you interact with the world and everything around them. So like
that's so true. That is like the part that people, because I was like, no matter what you do, even if you homeschool, you don't never teach your child anything, they gonna learn.
Oh, definitely.
They gonna learn from you. They gonna learn from just observing shit. They're going to learn. But if you teach them within life, like, you just teach them within the daily thing, then like you don't have to do all that extra shit. Like we went to go pick up some Indian food and it was started raining real hard and we were, waiting for him to check them out. And Rami was like, "Oh, mommy, I hear the lightning." And I was like, "You hear lightning?" I was like, "Nah, what do you hear?" And he was like, "Oh, I hear thunder." And I was like, "There you go." And the guy came out from the back, and the little Indian guy, he was like, "Oh, he's very intelligent." I was like, that just comes from conversation. That wasn't like we sat down and did a lesson about rain and how no, that just came from, "Oh man, what light in the sky? That's lightning. That sound, that's thunder." Like, we just did a lesson. Like, it's that simple.
Oh yeah, communication is super key. Like, when I was working in the preschool for a little bit, people would always be shocked, like, why don't you, dumb down your language for the babies? I say I talk to them just like talk to an adult, because they're going to learn like an adult learns. And I will use big, SAT level words and whatnot. And if they asked me what it meant, I would tell them the definition. And I had half of my class actually remember some of the words I told them. So I'm not for that whole dumbing thing down because they're a baby, or what do they call it? Speaking in motherese. Okay, so we're gonna do this. Like, no, that doesn't do anything. I hate that goo goo gaga shit.
I was like, you can use very precise language with children,
Exactly.
but you don't have to dumb it down. Like, don't use a whole bunch of extra words that you don't need,
course.
but you can still use the same words. Like, if you wanted to say you being very loquacious today, they're gonna be like, what? Like, nigga, you talking a lot. Oh, okay. And I guarantee you they gonna use that.
Or try.
They gonna use that against another kid, like in the class.
Yeah.
Oh, loquacious ass nigga over there talking around there. You know what I mean? And
they do.
I heard a kid call somebody asinine one day. I almost fell out my chair. I was in the self-contained, the special kids that you can't be out in whatever. Basically a bunch of little wild ass little black boys that ain't got nothing wrong with them mentally. They just fucking bug out on people when they feel like it. Like, that's just the honest truth. So we finally got him calm, and he was doing work, and everybody's sitting in their little different spots doing their work, and the kid like got up, just did something dumb that was just completely unnecessary, like knocked something over, kicked something, and da-da-da. And he was like, he looked up from his paper, and he was like, dude, that was so asinine. And then we in the we like looked at each other, and then we looked at him. We was like, that was what? He's like, did I use it right? we was like, yeah. He was like, I knew I was smart. We was like, it was an older lady was like, I told you wasn't nothing wrong with you. You just need to learn some self-control. I love having like old black women when they like the TAs and stuff, because they do not let them get away with these learning disabilities at all.
Not at all.
She said, ain't nothing wrong with you. You just need to learn some self-control, learn how to focus a little bit, but
some tact.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And I was, and then again, why would they use that if they're in a system that's racist?
Right.
So why do we expect these 11, 12-year-old little boys who are experiencing racism in the school? Because whether or not somebody is actually literally being racist to them, we know that the curriculum is racist. We know that how they identify and put them in classes is racist. We know how they give them learning disorders is racist. So they are literally experiencing racism, and then we're looking at them like they have some kind of disorder because they go the fuck off, or because they not going along to get along. Now they got a problem. I'm like, y'all, it don't make sense. Like, it literally doesn't make sense. Ooh. School, my thing is school, I fucking hate schools. Like, as much school as I went to and as good as I did in school or whatever, like, I'm like, no. Like, when people's like, when I was like, I'm not sending my child to school, and they're like, oh my God, you have all this education, and no.
Which is why I'm not sending him to school.
Exactly. I've been a school counselor. What'd you say? What'd you say, Dwayne?
Oh, no, I'm saying it makes perfect sense to me. Like, if you
go,
just like how, for example, like a lot of owners of bars, they don't drink the same way that Mr. William Gates, doesn't have his kids on social media. Definitely doesn't vaccinate his kids, but want to vaccinate half the world and shit.
Man.
Like, come on.
Exactly. Fucking exactly. Like, because once you in there, you know better.
Exactly.
Like, if you want to know. I've gotten to the point to realizing that a lot of people don't want to know because they don't want to feel the pressure to have to change the life that they live. So they just
don't
stick their head in the hole.
The sad thing is they still know, because the fact that they're going so hard to not know means that they know enough. And that's the crazy paradox, irony, whatever word is appropriate. But that's the crazy part about it is, like, even with the trafficking stuff that's coming out that has been going on since the 90s and before, really, way before that. But at least with this particular case, you'll bring stuff up to people and they're like, oh, well, how would they have gotten away with it? It's the same way they've been getting away with it all this time. Like, what you mean? Like, the internet really wasn't made for us. It was made for them to do all of their underground networks. We just got, all of this playground space to go along with it to distract ourselves. But that's where, because I remember, when internet first came out and whatnot, because we were also very late because, poor, it is what it is. But when, you had to have right after dial-up, but before Wi-Fi, where you had to like take the little light up cartridge and like plug it into your laptop. I don't know if y'all had that to connect to the internet. It was right after. Yeah. But even with dial-up with like AOL chat rooms and whatnot, I remember how open the chat rooms were. Like, dudes in whole other countries were literally trying to learn. Now, I had common sense. I'm glad. I know everyone isn't like this. I don't know what would click in my head and just be like, nah, I hope you don't need to be talking to this person. But grown men in chat rooms were literally aware that you were a child, aware that I was 7 years old, aware that I was 10 years old, and were like, hey, let's be friends. You're 52. What we got to be friends about? What? And they like,
yeah, you old enough to be my peepaw. Fuck me, I talk about.
Exactly.
Don't you want to go to the park? I'll take you to Disneyland.
I watched too many Lifetime abduction movies with my mama to even play that.
I just never liked talking to people. So like, even like AOL, I didn't even want to talk to people I knew. So that, I think that being antisocial saved me on the like, so I didn't get to experience the actual like chat rooms where people were like, this old man like came into this chat room and like, dude, I used to think that stuff was really weird. Like, well, why was you in here anyway? Like, I was just like, you didn't want to just, I don't know, do something else. Like, I just always thought it was weird to like be really like talking to people that you don't know and can't see and like just having conversation. I mean, I kind of came out of that now with, social media being a thing. But like back then I used to think that it was really weird. But then like, how do you have, it just shows how detached parents are, because how do you have these long ass conversations?
Exactly.
And they have no clue.
Like, and that's it is weird, honestly. I have a weird mind. It was always for like personal research purposes. I never had any interest of actually meeting anyone, because I didn't like real life meeting people or talking to either. But I would go into these things with like, I wonder what's going on type of mindset. But you're absolutely right. Like it goes to show, and my parents were, active, and it still goes to show how 5 minutes alone can cause so much. So I'm thinking of children who really didn't have parents there. Like, who knows the types of conversation or things they saw. And I guess a little bit of me was naive to being a child, because they would have the chat rooms, listed by age, category, this is only for teenagers, but there was no way to verify. So anyone could come in there. Like, it wasn't verified. It wasn't realistic. It wasn't closed off. They weren't sitting there taking your birth certificate. So like, anyone could get in there.
Yep. And that's the same thing with like, when we go back to like public school, you don't know who the fuck is in these schools with your children. Because there's so many. Like, even if you know the teacher, your child's teacher, and you definitely don't know them, actually know them, their representative, but you don't actually know them. But even if you know the teacher and the principal, you still got the IAs, you got people that are coming in from the community with different programs, you got what I mean? You got other parents coming in there. You got, cafeteria, the janitors, you got, now you got like school officers and social workers, and you got all of these people with all of their shit that happens in their life, all of their childhood traumas, all, like all of whatever else is going on, all have access to your child. And like, you don't even know to process with your child. You can't even like, sometimes you don't even know what questions to ask to get to what you need to know, because you didn't know that they had a run-in with this person randomly who might have made them feel a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, you can say, anything happened at school today, and but your child may not just share it because it might not have felt like a big deal, or they don't really want to talk about it or whatever, but you don't even know. Like, you don't even know. Like, I seen a hall monitor yell at a little boy when I was a school counselor because he got in trouble, got kicked out of class. Ooh. You a hall monitor, just monitor the fucking hall. Nobody's paying you to fucking talk to the kids, especially when you talk like this. He was like, man, you in the hallway again? You got kicked out of class again? Man, you're gonna be the first student at middle school with your license.
Ooh. Let's see.
And I'm like,
little power tripping.
Yeah, like, dude, you a hall monitor, first of all.
Like, chill out.
Second of all,
you're
like,
on your way to being a cop. Keep it a band. You're on your way. That's the trajectory right there.
That's your goal. That's your end goal. And I'm like, dude, chill out. Like, why would you say that to a 11-year-old? A 12-year-old? Like, and he's already conscious that, like, because he might have been 13 in the 7th grade or something like that. And like,
he know where he at.
He know where he at, like, and he about to, and it's not looking like you're not on the trajectory to pass 7th grade, so you could potentially be 14 in the 7th grade next year. You know what I mean? Like, he know, like, if anybody knows, he knows. So, like, why aren't you being encouraging? Like, dude, man, can you just stay? Even if you don't gotta be nice, but like, can you stay in class tomorrow? How about we make that a goal? Just keep your ass in class for tomorrow. Like, just anything, but like, you're now, like, he done said this like negative ass comment, and you don't even know, as a parent, like, you don't even know to process that with your child. You know what I mean? Like, man, somebody just took an adult male, your reflection of you. You know what I mean? Because this was a black male to a little black boy said that, like. And he came to me and told me what he said. He was like, he was, you know what I mean? And I was like, don't worry about him. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. But, like, you don't even know to process things. Like, the fact you don't know who has access to your children. Because there's so many people and who are considered to be authority over your children. Like, I don't want nobody being an authority over my child that I don't know. I don't know you. I don't want my child to just listen to you because you're an adult. No, I don't.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. Like, you gotta prove yourself for something. I don't know. But
go ahead. I think that every public school has at least 2 pedophiles in it.
Oh,
easy.
For sure.
At least.
Easy.
And that's probably a low number.
It's like, y'all don't hire ones that get convicted per se, but what about the ones that haven't been?
Look, man, it was a school, and not even just pedophiles. They hire straight up criminals, like, knowing, because it was a school that I was at, and this lady, I don't know why she got chumped. People have this weird thing where they just tell me all their business whether I ask or not. But we were sitting in a meeting, waiting for the meeting to start, and I don't talk to nobody. I've never gone out of my way to speak to anyone or reveal them any more than my first and last name, and sometimes not even that if I don't need to. But and she was just telling me basically how she left this one school in the county for some criminal tampering of test scores, and then this school hired her before the case was even fit, or the case was like thrown out, or it was indiscriminate or something. They didn't come to any conclusion, and I'm like, why are you telling me this? Like, you just basically told me that you a whole criminal in this piece. I already don't fuck with y'all, but now I super, because this thing was apparently in like the news, like it was a big case, and I'm like, and the school knew this and still hired you? Mm-hmm. That's the problem. So definitely there's some little child lovers in there, but outside of that, there are real life criminals in the schools. If they're not teachers, they're your administrative staff, and that's not any better. Yeah. And then you also got to take into account other children in the classroom who unfortunately bring their little bad habits to to taint other kids in the classroom. And
Mhm.
that's a whole other unfortunate topic, because you can only intervene so much as the teacher. Like sometimes you just got to watch it blow up, because you can't pinpoint that one, group. You can literally only do what you can do. And that really makes teaching stressful. Like
Mhm. I
you
remember
can,
some of the stuff we talked about on the playground. Like whenever,
yes.
this is why I usually always like hung with the boys, because I was a heavy tomboy. But the times where I would like try to go venture and like go see what the girls were doing, like, what are y'all talking? I don't want to. And I'm going back to play football. Like I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
This is the things that we talked about, kids hiding over behind this tree or whatever, trying to kiss, and like just, which, I mean, some of that is whatever, they're modeling, it can be innocent, but like some of it, or these children have been molested and they're bringing those behaviors to school.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you cannot, like, if you're trying to say you're going to protect your child and be a parent and then send them into a place that's completely unknown and completely out of your control on a daily basis, over and over and over and over again, like, that shit's crazy. And then we know all these teachers are racist, like whether they do it knowingly or subconsciously, like they just are. Like,
the stereotypes are pushed.
Yes,
majorly.
hard, like super, like ridiculously hard, where we know that Black boys get sent to the office for the same offense way more than little white boys.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and it's not even close. You know what I mean? Like, to where something I see and I'm like, dude, sit down. And it's over. Where somebody else who doesn't have the, what they call it, sensitivity,
the training.
Yes, that doesn't, have that cultural, that bias training or whatever. Is like, oh no, you're gonna get out of here and blow, and then they blow it up to, the point to where now this done happened 2 or 3 times. He's suspended. He's, what I mean, like just all kind of like just racist infractions that like keep adding up. And then we know once you get suspended so many times, that changes your trajectory in life, and that changes your view of school and how you value it, and whether you want to be there and how invested you are. Like, all of that factors in. And so it's like, why would you send your child into this saying, like, hoping they don't fail? Because if you look at the statistics, they're probably going to not do their best. I'm not going to say they're going to fail, but they're not going to do their best. Like, and it's not going to feed them. They're going to have trauma, and you know what I mean? Like, all this shit, and they can go graduate, but like, I'll never want to learn shit again. I ain't never trying to go to school ever again. Like,
yeah, and even like just like the little nuances with stuff like, oh, this is going on your permanent record. And if you think about like how, everything, every little infraction that teenagers go through is like, I'm gonna die. Like, that's so for like saying the whole concept of permanent record, like
prison.
That's basically what it's saying. Like, it's going to, we're gonna add this to your jail file. You know what I'm saying?
Basically.
But we've talked a lot about the problems. Now, as far as like, starting a homeschool, like trying to get involved with homeschooling, like what can people do? Like, are there any resources out there that people can tap into?
There's a lot of different resources. Of course, you got, like, if you're doing like the private tutoring thing, you can go that route. If you want to do curriculums, like I said, I'm not big on curriculums, but I do like those, like the little science kits you can order. They have like Mel Science, or they have the Quico. It's KWICO.
I know what
think
you're
that's
talking
how you
about.
spell it. There's like
The
those
little
different
passports.
Yeah. And then you could do like my one of the ladies that does martial art, her son is doing an online coding class. So I think picking a subject that your child is interested in and bringing that into the home is or letting them do that is very powerful, because now that's something that they want to do. So they're going to do it, and you don't have to force them to do it. Joining with other homeschooling parents and figuring out, okay, what strengths do you have? Like I said, she has a garden, so we can go over there and do garden activities where there's draw a vegetable or draw whatever, you know what I mean? Like whatever it is, I don't know, pick a plant, I don't know, whatever. So like stuff like this, seeing what you have in that network of people. We got, like, of course we got a martial arts instructor. So Bob, guess what? We got martial arts, we got yoga, you know, like figuring out what you have in your network, or even if they're not homeschooling, if it's just people in your family, you know, oh, such and such got a car business, oh, or, you know, a dealership, or he got whatever they got, a repair shop. We're going to go up there and you're going to sit and see what it's like to repair something, or you want to go fix something, or hell, YouTube is one of the best things. Like, you got something that's going wrong in the house, or they want to like fix something, or they want to change something in their room, or the washing machine stopped working. Like, let's get on YouTube and see if we can figure out how to fix it ourselves, and let them lead it. What do we need from Home Depot? What do we need from this? How do we, you know what I mean? And actually let them lead it. Like, that's so much learning in that. You get problem solving, you know what I mean? Order of operation, following directions. Like, you get a whole learning experience in that. And it's something useful that applies to something, so it sticks better, you know?
Right.
Fact. It takes 10 times to learn something through play, 10 repetitions to learn it through play, 400 to learn it through hearing it through instruction.
Shit.
Yeah, I learned that statistic too. I did too.
I thought that was fucking amazing, and I was like, we are fucking stupid in schools. Like, that's what I immediately thought. Like, you got teachers out here trying to teach something 400 reps, where you just let them play, they would have learned it in 10.
Right.
So I tell, like, parents, especially parents, you know, if it's 12 and under, like, think about that when you're trying to do school, because people have this thing that school has to be like hard or boring, or they shouldn't like it, or it shouldn't be fun. It's like, nah, if it's fun, they actually learn better. And you have less of a headache, and it takes less time.
Everybody wins, honestly.
Everyone does win. And even if you are going to do the whole curriculum route, there's, especially with what's going on, there's so many online homeschooling options, like, and you can still incorporate the you know, home learning into that. And I'm a big fan of making everything a lesson, like everything, like how Ajaya was saying with the going to Home Depot, figuring out yourself. You can make anything a lesson, and it's not hard. You just have to, people just got to stop being selfish is what it is. People don't want to take, I feel like some of the things that parents, let's talk to parents, think is a lot of extra work really isn't. They just don't want to put in the extra effort to think. Like something like that she just came up with, the whole, you know, let's figure it out ourselves. It's so simple. You just have to think past, oh, let me hire someone, or let me, you know, do this, let me do that. Because then maybe that's something your child likes. Oh, I like, because these trade jobs make hella money. Plumbers, electricians, carpenters, they make mad money. So then you put your child on track for a career that he can invest in and see if he likes it.
Right.
And we have to give up the idea that learning only happens in school. Correct. That's the first issue. It's like, no, learning happens everywhere. The school is unnatural. So like, once you realize that your child is constantly learning from everything you're doing, every interaction you have, how you talk to people, how you speak to people, how you go to the grocery store, like they're learning every single thing you do. So now be intentional on making it an actual learning experience. Now you're like, okay, they're always learning, so let me throw in these skills, because now I'm looking at it as a learning opportunity. You know, like, instead of like, I just gotta go to the store and get it over with. It's like, no, make that a part of like life. The purpose of learning is to be able to live life better and to be able to accomplish things in life better. So what better way to learn than through the shit you do every day in life?
And boys and girls.
Don't make it harder.
Yes, and boys and girls need life skills. I was so appalled when I went to college, and there were all of these people who didn't know how to cook. It wasn't just girls and it wasn't just boys. It was both of them. And they were surprised that I was using the clubhouse to actually cook in the kitchen. And I'm like, did y'all, or people didn't know how to do laundry. And I'm like,
laundry.
My guy, what do you think was gonna happen here? You thought I was gonna have maids and butlers, and your dorm advisor was gonna, all right, laundry day, put your shit in the no, like you have to do it yourself. So parents really need to teach their children life skills, because that was sad. That was a sad display. And then these are the dudes that wanna, hey Shotty, let me get up and no, you can't even cook for yourself. Not for me, for yourself.
You gonna starve. You gonna starve out here. You gonna kill yourself eating double cheeseburgers every fucking day off the dollar menu. Like you gonna be high blood pressure, impotent. All because nobody want to teach you how to cook. All because you didn't want to learn how to cook. I remember I cooked. My mom started making at 12. My mom started making me cook dinner twice a week. Mm. So like I was in there. I had like a little hot plate, and I had a toaster oven. And a George Foreman. I'm talking about we having full course meals. Yes. We have it. And like I used to lock my door because we had like a little kitchen. I used to lock my door because people would smell it and they just do. No, it's for me. Like because people literally did not know how to cook. And I was like, how is this real life? Like you like just put the chicken in the oven, in the skillet, like or in the oven, like and just put it in there. You put some seasoning on there, shake it up, put it in there. Like that's literally it. Like, and I was like, wow.
If like you think about it, like they went a whole 12 years of high school, or not high school, but like 12 years of standard education. They can't even feed themselves.
No.
Now, niggas is dumb. If that's not dumb,
that's dumb. Pretty. Now I had a class. I think it was in middle school. It was like home economics, where like they taught us about like how to cook, how to sew, and shit like that. But I'm not even sure they still even have those kind of classes anymore.
Nope.
Nah, they don't.
And it's not mandatory.
Yeah, that's why
you have it as an option. It is not something that you have to take.
And they've been weaseling that out for a while now. Like home ec, that's been coming out of the curriculum for a very long time. Like how they don't teach cursive and penmanship anymore, and you got all these children with such abysmal handwriting. Like, oh my gosh. So yeah, home ec is.
They even took shop or we call technology out of a lot of schools. That was one of my favorite fucking classes. That was like literally, and I think I only took it 6th, 7th, maybe 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I used to love like I get to cut the wood on this fucking saw. Like, like, but I don't know, the children today, just the average, there are plenty of children who will get it and be fine. But like, I don't know, some of them might play too much. But I was in the hood in my 6th grade class, and like his class ran like fuck. You would not think he was in the same school. Like you walk past his class, like, cause like you couldn't play. Like if you played when we was doing stuff in the classroom part, your ass not going over there into the other part, and you gonna fail because you didn't do your project because you played too damn much. Like so, you know what I mean? Like so, as early as 6th grade, like we got that message. And everything was fine. You know what I mean? Like we have that's another school thing. Schools have such low standards for children.
Oh, they do.
Such low standards for children. And then children gonna play into it every time. Like, why am I gonna give you more when that's all you expect from me?
Mm-hmm. They have misplaced standards too, because they have low expectations for them, but then the standards aren't like they changed. I know over here they changed them as I was finishing my program, and they're not even developmentally appropriate anymore. Like they're expecting 5th graders to be out here doing what was 8th grade algebra when I was in school, and I'm like, this baby hasn't even solidified his multiplication facts. Like, why are we out here a plus b to the 2nd power equals? Nah, like back it up. Like chill out a little bit.
Especially if you ain't teaching shit. But anyway. So, if people wanted to find you or find out more information about homeschooling, did you have any resources that you wanted to share?
What is it? what is Akila's podcast? Like, she's one of the leaders, Black lady, Black woman, but she's one of the leading people in unschooling in the world. She's but her name's Akila. Look, you gonna make me go into my podcast right now so I can just actually give the resources, because she's dope. Like, if you're looking at Fair of the Free Child, that's what her podcast is called. Because she always talks about raising free children and removing oppression from education. So Fair of the Free Child is she's good. Akila Richards is her name. If you look her up, you can find all kind of like homeschooling, unschooling, self-directed education is another term that people use. And then personally for me, I had on my website, www.ajayadivine.com, if you click on my education tab, I have a little bit of information about just education and thinking about it from a different view. And then I have, I'm actually doing a private for like a homeschool co-op. I'm doing like a homeschool seminar for them. So I do have like private seminars if you want to kind of like narrow in on what your homeschool experience is going to look like and you want some help shaping that and that kind of stuff. So I have that option. But yeah, there's some curriculums out there that, I've heard people use, but I'm just not into it because I can't take anybody's whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, there might be pieces that I can piece from it. Like, and I was just saying this, I'm not African centered. Like, as that's a big thing in the Black community right now. Everyone's looking for like African centered education, and that's not my thing. So if that's what you're looking for, you can pull it in from different places. But if you look up African centered educations, you're going to pull up a few different curriculums that I've heard good things about. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not that they're bad or anything, but just look up African centered education if you're looking for that. That's all I really got for you.
Yes, I'm still new on my homeschooling journey outside of the private tutoring that I do. So I'm still exploring, but I'm definitely a big proponent of doing, your own research and finding, what fits for you and anything. Like we always say, it all goes back to self. So I feel like if you're wanting to, at least get the information, that's an excellent start. You gotta want to change in order to do the change. So
most definitely. So people want to find you, ladies, where can they find you at?
I am ajayadivine.com. My podcast, Infinite Beings Unite, and then Ajaya Divine on all social media platforms. But I'm not talking about none of the shit that's going on, so don't be looking to come on there.
Keep your wet ass pussy to yourself.
Yes, please not come this way to argue. But right now, just on Twitter and Instagram, Hope You Smile. That's about it right now. Don't come find me on Facebook. I don't friend strangers.
You found me at I am Duanis on Twitter. I haven't really been on Twitter like that because I've been, out here living life and shit.
Beautiful.
Which one, Larry?
Every once in a while I peek in to see what you niggas is doing. You niggas is on some shit. So, but I am Duanis.
Tell the truth, shame the devil.
Yeah. But yeah, just make sure you like, subscribe, cancel me. It is what it is. And thank you, ladies, for your time.
You're welcome.